We've got some folks joining us already, so let's go ahead and get started. So, hi everyone, and welcome to our Introduction to Atlassian Analytics webinar. We're so glad you're able to join us today for this overview of Atlassian Analytics. My name is Brad Wood. I'm a consultant and Atlassian certified professional with Valiantys and Atlassian Platinum Solutions partner. And today we're going to walk through Atlassian Analytics to highlight many of its strengths, its capabilities, its use cases, and a whole lot more. And a little bit about us here at Valiantys. We're a Platinum Solutions partner of Atlassian. We offer consulting and licensing services across the entire suite of Atlassian products for organizations of all shapes and sizes, anywhere in the world, for any platform, including cloud and data center. We've got extensive insight and understanding of Atlassian tools, focus and skill set, and proven capability at every level. And just some quick metrics around us. We're 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. We've been the Atlassian Partner of the Year 13 times. We've worked with 65 of the global Fortune 500 organizations. We also have a full stack development center that works on custom solutions and integrations with your Atlassian tools, connecting them to things outside of the ecosystem. We're Atlassian's first global partner, and we provide 24/7 global coverage with over 600 team members. And a little bit more about what we do. So, like I mentioned, consulting services, licensing services, integration and development, managed services, and training, like this webinar, just to name a few of the things that we do. There's some information in the chat here as well with our website, our training website. We'll put some more of that information in there as we go along throughout this presentation. And you can find out more about what we do at our website. And just a little bit more about the training services that we offer. So in addition to webinars like this, we also have extensive training sessions on other Atlassian products like our Jira software and JSM boot camps. These are multiple day courses focused on retention. They're interactive and they are designed to leave users confident in your understanding and use of the tools and processes. And all of those can be found on our training page on our website. We even have a half-day analytics quick start course that is a deeper dive into configurations within analytics, and that's listed on our training website as well. And I think you can scan this QR code here to view those training options. And then also we've got our YouTube channel that is listed right here as well. If you just Google Valiantys YouTube, it should come up as well. And we've got even more Atlassian focused content there, tips and tricks, product updates, recordings of previous webinars, and a whole lot more there. So definitely give our YouTube page a look. Okay, with all that, let's talk about the agenda for today's webinar. So in our introduction, we're going to talk about what is Atlassian Analytics and who can benefit from using it. Then we're going to talk about the data lake. So where does this data come from and how is it connected to the tool? Then we're going to talk about dashboards. So where can we visualize the data once it's connected? Then we're talking about charts. How can we filter the data to provide useful insights? Sharing. So how can we share data from analytics with the appropriate audience? Permissions. So who can perform which functions within analytics? Exports. How can we export the data from analytics to another location? And then we'll have a few minutes at the end of the webinar for Q&A. And feel free to use the chat in Zoom as we go along if you think of any questions, or maybe it's the Q&A section, I think it is. Either way, if you think of something or want me to go back and review something at the end of the webinar, just throw it in the chat or the Q&A, and we will make some time for that at the end of this session. All right, so what is Atlassian Analytics and who is it for and who can benefit from it? So Analytics is Atlassian's data visualization and reporting tool that can pull data from Atlassian products through the Atlassian data lake connected to Atlassian cloud sites. It's available only at the enterprise tier in Atlassian cloud sites, and it's powered by the Atlassian data lake, which connects to all your products. So Jira software, Jira service management, Jira product discovery, Confluence, and even operations data can be pulled from the data lake into analytics and reported on. So in addition, it can connect to Jira Align via Enterprise Insights. And I believe that's a free product included with Jira Align now. So basically, if you're using Jira Align, you can pull that data in through analytics as well. You also have the ability to connect to non-Atlassian data sources such as Snowflake, Microsoft SQL Server, and more. Um, and each Atlassian product is going to have its own set of tables and columns in the Atlassian data lake that users can choose from to group and manipulate the visualization of that data within the charts and dashboards within analytics. So the data that's coming from each of your products is unique, and it can all be combined together in Atlassian Analytics. It provides out-of-the-box templates for a variety of reporting use cases, and we'll look at some of those here in just a little bit, including scaled agile teams, DevOps, IT service management, marketing, HR, etc. And users can create custom dashboards and charts. There's two methods to do that. We're going to look at both of those here in a little bit. There is a more user-friendly configuration method, kind of a low-code or no-code, known as Visual SQL. And then there is the ability to actually write SQL queries for more complex reporting needs. And several chart types to choose from. There's also chart templates. We've got tables, pie charts, bar charts, a whole lot more within this tool. And then who can benefit from Atlassian Analytics? Well, we're going to talk about a couple different kind of personas or use cases of who might use this tool. So maybe it's your team looking to save money by monitoring velocity and blockers. Maybe it's your team leads who want to optimize spend by prioritizing and allocating resources appropriately. Maybe it's your executive level team interested in investing smarter by evaluating the impact and ROI of their team's work, enabling them to make better decisions driven by the data that they get in Atlassian Analytics. And even your Jira admins needing to manage licensing better with access to usage trends or product details, things like that. So a lot of different use cases in this tool, and it can meet a variety of needs. And with that, we're going to start our demo. And I'm going to start by showing a couple fully built dashboard examples. And our goal when we're using this tool is to create well-structured dashboards with charts that display the relevant data for our specific audience. So I always like to recommend keep your audience in mind when you're building your dashboards. Show them what they need to see and don't overload them with data that they don't need to see. So we'll look at a couple examples of those right now. We're going to start with our initiatives overview. And so this is in a demo Jira site, and it's looking specifically at initiatives. And the idea here is to take a high level look at those initiatives within our organization, useful for maybe the executive level team who need that 10,000 foot view or big picture view of items within the organization and the data related to them. So in our overview section here, and you're going to notice a lot about this tool as I go through these examples, different content can be added, different sections can be defined within your dashboards, and the different chart types too. So we can see some single value charts here on the left. So we've got just very clear data, open initiatives, blocked initiatives, done, canceled, etc. Next to that, we see a funnel chart where we're just looking at the status category of those initiatives. So to do, in progress, done. If you've used Jira or any of the other Atlassian products, you are definitely familiar with those status categories. That's what we're looking at here. We see two different pie charts here. These are based on different custom fields. So we absolutely have the ability to pull custom field data into our analytics charts and dashboards. And that's what we're using for these two pie charts here. And you can notice that all these colors are customizable as well. If you notice, these two pie charts are not the same colors, and they don't need to be. They can be whatever color you want them to be. Here we've just got a couple table examples. So initiative details by status. So here are initiatives that are in flight and some different data points about them. Again, we're pulling in a custom field here, strategic driver. We're also pulling in the Jira team field. So that data is relative, or it is available in your analytics charts. We've also got hyperlinks here. So you can actually configure these to be click-through links. So if you want to go to this specific initiative in Jira, you can open it directly from analytics. And these charts are just initiatives ready for work and in review. In this next section, we're showcasing the drill down functionality in analytics. So let's say we're looking at all of our open initiatives and we want to look at the children related to those initiatives. So if I click on HRW 208, for example, these are all of the children underneath that specific initiative. These all roll up to that initiative. And then if I want to see the children of its children, I can click here and manipulate the data in this chart. And again, showcasing this hyperlink functionality here. So the drill down is really a great function to view additional data related to the data in your charts. Let's move on to our resource management dashboard here. So the idea here is that our managers or our team leads can look at issues by their team, by assignee, the status those issues are in, and more. So here we've got issues by team. And if I click on just any of these teams here, I'll select Team Alpha, for example. I can manipulate the data in the chart next to it and see all of those issues that are related to that team. And we see those here. 89 issues assigned to Team Alpha. Again, some hyperlinks and some other data here. And if we scroll down a little bit here, I'm going to select Team Alpha again in this control, which is basically an interactive filter that is controlling the data in this chart. So now we see Team Alpha. There are 9 issues assigned to someone. And if I click on, we'll just click on this person, for example, we can see some more information about those issues and what they are. And again, a link directly to them, the summary field, the status, the story points, etc. So the idea here again is for your team lead or your team manager to just kind of have an overview of all the work that their team is currently has committed to, who it's assigned to, the status of those work items, etc. And in this chart, we see unassigned issues by team. So we can, if we hover over any of these wedges in the pie chart, we can click on one of these. We'll just click Team Alpha again, and we'll manipulate the data in the chart next to it. And we can see what are all these unassigned issues that our team has committed to working on, but we don't have an assignee set yet. So we can see those here. And again, just kind of a one-stop shop for your team lead or your manager to view the work that your team has committed to and the status that it is in. Lastly, we can pull data directly related to our Atlassian tools, such as Jira, JSM, Confluence, etc., helping our admins monitor the state of the tools and make better decisions about the tools. So this chart is really meant to be just another really high-level view of the state of our Atlassian tools. We can see some very simple data here. And I should mention too, you see an example of adding an image to your dashboard. So you can add your company's branding or maybe some other imagery that you might need in your dashboard. That is available as well. But these are just really high-level metrics of our Atlassian products. So total number of Jira software projects, JSM, Confluence spaces, average issues per project, or average pages per space. If we scroll down a little bit, we can do another drill down here. So we've got our top 10 Jira software projects by issue count. So we can see all of those here. And if I click on one of these, we'll just click on this sample Scrum project, for example. In the pie chart next to it, we can get a breakdown of the statuses of all of those issues, and we can see those in percentages here as well. Same concept here with the bottom 10 Jira software projects by issue count, and the idea here is for your admins to say, okay, these 10 projects don't have very many issues in them. What are they? What status are they in? Do we even need these projects anymore? And you can view all that data in we've just got a pie chart here, but you could configure a table with any columns that you want to help your Jira admins make informed decisions. You can do the same thing with JSM. So I could click on this JSM project, for example, and manipulate the data here. Another thing you can do that's kind of cool in your tables is some color formatting. So in this case, I've used the status category colors. So gray being to do, blue in progress, green done to just kind of highlight the issues in this table. And you can also interact with your table. So you can filter ascending or descending on any of your columns by simply just clicking the name of the column. We can do the same thing with Confluence as well. So top 10 and bottom 10, and you can see we've got several spaces that have a single page in them. So perhaps these spaces aren't being actively used, and perhaps we could remove them from our Confluence instance, and we could drill down into those in the chart next to it if we so choose. And then lastly, just a couple other examples of some system analysis metrics. So fields by issue count. This is basically pulling the name of every single field in our instance and the number of issues that have a value set in that field. And again, we can sort ascending or descending. So we know, for example, created, creator, issue type, all of these fields are being used quite a bit by over 2,800 issues. We obviously want to keep those fields. All of these fields that have a single issue that are using them, perhaps we don't need them anymore. And so this is a great way to just very quickly identify fields that are no longer needed in your system. Likewise, we've got a list of inactive users here, and for demo purposes, I'm only displaying their account ID, but you could display that user's first and last name in your chart if you so choose. In this case, we've got a lot of inactive users that we could probably remove from our system, and we're using Atlassian Analytics to show us that data very quickly. And so those are just a few examples of some fully built dashboards for specific use cases. Let's go to the main page of analytics and we'll look at how our dashboards and charts are actually being populated via the Atlassian data lake. So I'm going to go here to Atlassian Analytics. It's often going to just land you on the dashboards page, but there's basically two sections in Atlassian Analytics. There's your dashboards area and there's the data area. And the amount of menus and things that you can access in the data area is going to depend on whether or not you're a Jira admin, an org admin, that kind of stuff. But the data section is where we're going to actually configure what we're pulling into this tool and what we can report on. I mentioned the Atlassian Data Lake that aggregates and stores data from all of your Atlassian tools and third-party connected tools. You do have to be an org admin to create a data connection in analytics. You can see here we've got several data sources configured here. They're different types. This one that says client demo, this is our connection to the Atlassian Data Lake. We can see the scope of data is all. So I should mention that your connections to the Atlassian Data Lake can include or exclude anything that you want. So you don't have to pull everything. And kind of a use case for that is if you have any projects that have sensitive data that not everybody should be able to view, you may not want to pull those into Atlassian Analytics. And then we can see when it was last edited, and we'll talk about access here in just a second. So if we click on the name of this connection, I'll go through these tabs really quickly, but the general tab is where we can change the name. We can change the maximum query duration, so you can increase or decrease that if you'd like to. And then usage, we can see a number of different charts are actually using this data connection. So we want to make sure that it's being actively used, and this is one way to view that information. In the access section, this is where we're going to actually configure who can query against this data lake connection. So you can either open it up to everybody who has access to Atlassian Analytics, or you can be specific with that. And you can be specific with names or Atlassian groups. And then there's a couple different permissions here. So can query means people can create charts and controls using the data in this connection. And then can manage gives some additional permissions and gives you the ability to change some of the configurations in this data lake connection. If we go to the connection tab, this is where we're going to look and see what is being pulled in. So we can see from JSM, for example, 10 projects send 7 asset schemas. 94 Confluence spaces, 40 Jira projects, and so on and so forth. So that's really the scope of this data connection here. And if we go to the schema tab, this is where we're going to see all the different tables that are available. When you create your data lake connection by default, most of these are already checked for you, but there are some that aren't automatically checked, and you can come in here and check them if you would so choose. And then lastly, we've got some audit log capabilities here with query log and the change history, etc. So that's all the information within the data connection itself. And just really quickly, when I click add data source, this is going to show me all the third-party data sources that are available to connect to. So we've got some Amazon products, Databricks, Google products, Microsoft, etc. And you would just click on one of these and sort of follow the steps in the wizard that it displays when you do that. So that's it for the data section. I'm going to talk about the dashboard section now. And dashboards are essentially a collection of charts and controls and other content that visually display the data from the data lake. And so let's talk through this UI here just really quickly. There's a handy search bar here, so you can search for the dashboard you're looking for. There's a couple different ways to filter this. So in the all dashboards dropdown that you see here, you can filter by dashboards that you created. You can star dashboards very similarly to other starred elements in Jira and other Atlassian products. And then you can, as an admin, you can view some other sections like archived and trashed. You can also create categories, which is really helpful to keep things organized, a lot like Jira projects. And you can see here we've got just one category configured here. And if I selected no filter, I would just see everything that's built in analytics that has been shared with me. And we'll talk about that here in just a second as well. Over on the right-hand side, we have some other sorting options. So sort by last viewed by anyone, edited by anyone. I'm using the card view right now, so you can actually see like a visual preview of the data that's in these dashboards. But you can also switch to list view here and just kind of get a table view. So the title, the category, last viewed, the view count, and who created this. And you can actually star these from here as well. So if I add this to my starred section and then I go to starred, now I will see that I'll see that dashboard. So dashboards can be created a couple of different ways. They can be created by a template or they can be custom made. And you can actually make your own custom templates too, which I'll show you how to do that here in just a second when we're in a dashboard. That's a relatively new feature in analytics, but the way you're going to create a dashboard is you can either click the create button up here at the top and select dashboard, or you can just click create dashboard. And you've got a couple options here. You can create a blank dashboard, you can use a template, or if you have a dashboard in another analytics instance that you want to import, you can import it just using a JSON export, which is very simple to create from your other existing dashboard. So let's click on use a template and we'll select. And then we've got a couple options here to filter the available templates. You can see there's a large number of templates here. These are fully built dashboards with charts, interactive controls, some help content, and some links to some documentation from Atlassian on what they were intended to showcase in these dashboards. But you can filter this list a little bit. So created by Atlassian or created by my organization. If we had any dashboard templates that we've created, we'll see those in the My Organization section. If you have multiple data sources, you can choose which data source that dashboard should be connected to. And then you can filter these by product. So if I select Confluence, for example, here's all the Confluence specific templates. Likewise, Jira, and then Jira Service Management. So there's a lot of really good templates in here, and we're actually going to look at we'll look at a template dashboard right now. So let me open up this request management overview. So this was created from an Atlassian template. You can see there's a ton of content in this, and this is all spun up in just a matter of moments by selecting one of the dashboard templates. So you can see there's several controls here with labels above them. There's different sections here, some dividers, some single value charts, created versus resolved, for example, time to resolution, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of really good starting points in the templates. We do recommend they're a great way to learn the tool and really get yourself into analytics quickly by creating the template dashboards that will more than likely meet a lot of your reporting needs. If they don't, however, you can create your own custom dashboards. And so let's look into one of those, and I will talk through the UI of this a little bit, and then we'll talk about a little bit about configuring charts and controls. So this is one of the custom templates, or excuse me, custom dashboards that I created. Up here at the top, there's the title. If you click on this, you can change the title if you'd like. You can copy a link to the dashboard right here. If you want to manually refresh the data in your chart, you can click that right here. You can see it. This is one of the ones that I starred, and I can unstar or star it right here. You can make a copy of the dashboard here, or something that I really like to show is this presentation mode. So if you're using this in a meeting or you're screen sharing or a stand-up, something like that, it basically hides the admin section on the right-hand side and utilizes the full width of your monitor to display the dashboard. So I really like that. And you can actually do the same thing with your charts. If you hover over a chart and click the three dots and expand chart, you can view kind of a full width look of your charts as well. And I really like that for presenting as well. So the dashboard UI is pretty straightforward. Again, it's made up of charts, controls, content, images to display your data, and really just operates in kind of a vertical scrolling method. Let's talk about some of the specific items in this dashboard, though. So starting with our charts, and that's the first thing we're going to see on the right-hand side here is chart. You can expand this a little bit too to see a written description of what all these different sections are. So we're going to start with charts, and dashboards obviously consist of charts. They're visualizations of data. Atlassian has many chart templates. So they have the dashboard templates, or you can spin up a blank dashboard and create charts with some of their chart templates. And again, we can filter by different products. So we can filter by Jira, we'll say, and we can see all of these different chart templates. If you click on one of these, they'll give you a visual preview of what this is going to look like. You do see here, this is only an example. It doesn't reflect your actual data. So this is just an image. You're not going to see your actual data reflected in here, but once you spin this up, you absolutely would see your actual data. And so you can choose one of these, and you would just click configure chart to make some changes to that template chart. When you spin it up, there's oftentimes some customizations you can make in terms of the name or adding some controls automatically, which is really nice as well. Some of these come pre-filtered with controls that you can choose to include or exclude when you create your template chart. Or you can select custom chart, and this would create just a blank chart that you would configure yourself from scratch. And we'll look at how these charts are configured here in just a second. So I showed a little bit of this already, but if you hover over a chart, there are several actions that you have available here. This Insights button is powered by Atlassian Intelligence, and this is going to generate a written analysis or summary of your chart. So you can see here, it's saying Team Charlie has the highest issue count at 111, indicating potential workload or process challenges, and it goes on from there. This can be really helpful to just get a kind of a quick analysis and quick summary of what the data in your chart, number one, is showing, but number two, might be indicating. So I really like this feature. You can give some feedback to Atlassian here as well if this is a good response or a bad response. You can add comments to your chart. So You can see here there's kind of a string of comments, and it works like some of your other tools that you're obviously used to working in if you're in the Google suite of products or Microsoft, where you've got sort of a chain of comments and you can use them as kind of action items. So I could resolve this comment, and then now that whole thread has gone away. If I need to add a new comment, I can say this chart looks great, for example, and comment. Now my comment's there. I've got some additional functionality here as well, so I can edit this comment or delete it or grab a link to it. I can also generate a link directly to this chart by clicking on the link icon here. And then in the more actions section, we will go into the edit chart functionality here in just a second, but we can also copy the chart, move it, or delete it. We can refresh the data in it. We saw how to expand the chart. We can review some performance metrics, or we can even download this, and we can download it as a CSV, a PDF, a PNG, or an SVG. So maybe you want to download an image of that, attach it to an email, put it in a PowerPoint, something like that. We can do that directly from the chart itself. So let's look at how this chart is actually configured. So we're going to click on More Actions and go to Edit Chart. And like I mentioned, there's two different ways that our charts can be configured. They can be configured using SQL, or we can use the visual query mode, which is what we're looking at right now, and it works more like a traditional JQL search in Jira. It's basically a codeless interface that can be used to create queries by adding the columns that you need from the data lake tables and filters for that chart if needed. One thing I do like to show as well is so right here is where we can choose the configuration mode that we're in, so visual or SQL. If I click on SQL, you can see it's actually generated a SQL query from the configurations I've done in the visual mode. If you don't know how to write SQL, you can actually use Atlassian Intelligence to prompt this. So you can click on this, just use natural language like you would with any other AI tool, and then it will generate a query for you based on what you have prompted it to do. So that is a nice feature as well. So when you're configuring a chart in the visual mode, you're going to start with your query. So we can see there's just a single query in this chart. It's using this data connection again to the Atlassian data lake. And you're going to start by choosing the columns you need and then adding the filters that you need, if necessary, to display the appropriate data. So in this case, you can see we're pulling the count of unique issue IDs and the name of all of our teams, which is generating this table here at the bottom. This is just a simple 2-column table. So for each HR team, we're getting the count of unique, or excuse me, each team, we're getting the count of unique issue IDs associated with that team. And the way that's being generated in that format is by these group and aggregate functions. So each column that you pull from the data lake has different group and aggregate functions that are available, and they dictate how that column's data is displayed in the results. So again, we see count of unique, count of all, minimum, maximum for issue ID. If we were to change any of these, our result table would change drastically. And the options here are relatively similar for this column for the team name, but they do vary from column to column and from table to table when you're pulling those, and those are dictating how your data is going to be displayed in your result table. You can also add multiple queries to a single chart if you're needing to combine data from multiple sources or need to apply different filters to specific slices of data. I think we saw a create versus resolve chart earlier, and that's kind of what's driving one of those charts is you're looking at all issues that were created in a time frame versus all issues that were resolved in a time frame. And over on the right-hand side, we've got a couple things. So we see a preview of our chart here. So once we've run our query, I'll just run this again really quickly. This is where we're getting a preview of our chart. So again, just the name of each team and the count of all of the unique issue IDs associated with that team. we have a number of different chart options to choose from here on the right-hand side. So I think we saw a funnel chart earlier. We could change this to a pie chart, and it's going to display the data like this. We can change this to a bar chart, and we'll see the data like this. So you've got a number of different chart options here. If something is kind of highlighted in a lighter shade of gray, that means that your data is not compatible with that chart type. And Atlassian Analytics is going to tell you exactly why it's not compatible. In this case, for the single value chart, we need to have exactly one column and one row, and we don't have that in our data or our result table. So another thing you can do over here is click on this auto function, and it's going to auto select a chart type that it thinks is most appropriate for your result table. But anything that's in this darker gray color, you can select. So maybe I want a pie chart for this instead of a table. I can do that right here. And then we've got some different formulas and some other formatting functions here at the bottom. So once we've generated our result table, we've got a number of different options. So we can create different formula columns, or we can add formulas directly to our columns if you're working with numeric values and you need to divide something, for example. One example that we use a lot is like time and status comes in from the data lake connection, calculated in seconds, but you could divide that to convert it to minutes or hours or days, something like that. You can reorder your columns as well. So if you need something to be on the x-axis instead of the y-axis or vice versa for your chart, you can do that right here. You can sort your rows. So I could sort, we'll just do this really quickly. We'll sort count of issues, descending, and click save. And this is actually going to add a new action right under our query. And now we can see that this is sorted descending by the count of issues column. There's some additional group and aggregate functions you can apply to your result table. You can fill empty cells with a 0 if you'd like to, add additional filters, limit rows. So that's how I was generating those top 10 and bottom 10 charts. And then some additional advanced functions like bucket data, unpivoting, transposing, and forecasting, which is kind of a predictive function. And then here's where we would add an additional query if we need that. And when we do this, we can either create a new query or copy the existing query. I'm going to change this back to a bar chart really quickly. And we can see, since I've sorted this by count of the count of issues column, it's changing the way this is displayed in the table now too. So maybe this is how you want it. Maybe you want it from the largest count to the smallest count from left to right. You can do that within your chart configuration. If we come over here to where it just says chart and click on the settings cog here, this is where we can change a number of our other chart settings. So we can change the title of the chart here. You can change the font size so of the title. So maybe I want this to be a much larger font. I can change it there. You can give your chart a subtitle, change the subtitle font size. And then some of these options here are going to vary based on your chart. So for example, in a bar chart, I could change it from vertical to horizontal, and I could add percentage to this chart. And that's probably not very useful in this case, so I'll just unselect that. In the legend section, this would apply more to like the pie chart, but you can move your legend around. So it could be in the top right corner, it could be in the bottom, so on and so forth. In the axes, you can change the labels for your axes, and you can show or hide all labels as well. So let's change this back to a vertical bar chart. And on our x-axis, we're going to show all labels. And we should get some kind of label on our bars, but we're not getting that, but that's okay. But that's how you would add some labels here. And then there's some other things you can do here with minimum and maximum values for your what you're displaying as well to kind of truncate your axes a little bit if your numbers are very skewed. You can use custom colors. We talked about this a little bit. So I could say for count of issues, instead of blue, I want this to be red. And we'll give that a second to update. And then now we've got red bars. And something too with a lot of their charts is you can hover over like the wedges in the pie chart or the bars and get like the actual count, the number of issues in this case. Instead of just the visual representation, you can get that hard number there as well. And then there's some other additional functionality in here. The drill down section is where we were powering a lot of those drill down charts that we saw at the beginning of this webinar. I'm just going to cancel out of this for now, and I'm not going to save any of my changes. I'm just going to click cancel. But if you did want to save your changes, you would simply just click save to dashboard, and then your changes would be reflected on your dashboard. One other thing really quickly is you can access that chart settings section from the three dots directly from the dashboard as well. So you don't have to go into the back end of the chart itself to access the chart settings. So let's talk about some of the other configuration elements in our dashboard. So we've seen charts, we've talked about controls. If we want to add a new control, we would just click on control, and here's where we can choose from a variety of different control options. Again, controls are the interactive filters in your dashboard. They can be connected to one or more charts in your dashboard. They allow for multiple users to use the same dashboard, but display the data in a way that's contextually relevant to them. So we could share this dashboard with multiple teams, and they could see the data that's relevant to their team. There's several different control types. So dropdown is a simple dropdown style field. There's some date related ones like date slider, calendar, and date bucket. There's text input, range input, and there's even hidden variable where you can sort of hard code a variable and then hide that control. We talked about the drill downs a little bit. The drill downs, again, are taking the data from one chart and displaying more data in another chart related to that. But the way they're kind of working is, if you notice, I click on Team Charlie, and that's manipulating the value in this control, which is just a simple drop-down control. Now I get everything related to Team Charlie. Just because this is connected as a drill down, though, doesn't mean I can't just click in here and select like the webinar team and see that data here. So the drill down is kind of a two-step process where you create your charts, create a control, connect it to the first chart, and connect it to the second chart. So it's really being manipulated in a number of different ways here. Let's talk a little bit about content. So we saw some examples of that earlier. You can add titles, images, section dividers, a number of different types of content to your dashboard, help provide context to the charts and the data within the dashboard, and so on and so forth. And if you've ever used Confluence, this is going to look relatively similar to what you've seen before. So I'll click on content and I'll just place this anywhere on the dashboard. One thing I do like as well is this kind of grid style layout. So you can really use this to space things evenly and make things easy to view and easy to digest for your audience. And it's all laid out for you right here in this handy grid view. So I could just place this, let's say here, for example, and I've got a number of different options in the type of content that I want to add. If you've ever used Confluence, you can use the kind of / to access some macros and other things here. So we could add like the info panel from Confluence that you've probably seen before. And there's a number of different options for that. And of course, you could type in here and I could just say, example text. And then I would click save. And then I can move this around wherever I want on my dashboard. And I can even resize this. So I could stretch this all the way to the edge if I want to be some kind of section divider or title, something like that. I could add this to my dashboard right here. You can also add images. So if you click on image, it's going to navigate to your hard drive on your machine. You'll find the image you want to add and then upload it. and then place it wherever you need it to be. We talked about comments a little bit on the charts themselves, but we can also add comments to the entire dashboard. So you can see I've added this comment a while ago. This dashboard looks great, and I could edit or delete this. You can actually like mention people in this as well. So you could say like, Brad, could you please update this dashboard per our meeting? And just kind of tag somebody in here as kind of an action item if they need to make updates or make a change to the dashboard. You can do that right there. So that is really handy. And then we talked about the insights on the charts. The other menus that you've got over here, if I expand this again. So after the comments, dashboard managers are going to be able to update many different settings in their dashboard. So the dashboard managers by default are the person who created the dashboard, and that person is going to be able to grant other users access to the dashboard and control subscriptions for the dashboard amongst controlling other various settings. Something to note is that all of your analytics users are not necessarily going to have access to all dashboards by default. And really the process is a user is granted access to analytics by an administrator. Then each dashboard is going to be customized in terms of its accessibility by granting this to either everyone with access to analytics or specific users or groups. And we saw that with the data lake connection. It's very similar to how we configure access to our dashboards. So if I go to the settings section, we'll talk about these menus really quickly. The general section is where another place we can change the title or add a description. You can change the URL of your dashboard. So if you have company-specific guidelines for URLs, you could change that here. Here's where you can change the category. The sandbox category is in here by default. I created the webinar category, and so I could set that here. You've got some other settings with time zones and data freshness, etc. If we go to controls, we can see a comprehensive list of all the controls in our dashboard, the type that they are, what the current value is in your controls. And then I really like this button, this reset values. If you click this, it's basically just going to clear everything that's been selected in your controls. So if you're doing some troubleshooting or want to just remove those values really quickly instead of clicking into every single control, you can just do that right here. And now let's talk about access. So this is where we can control who can view, who can edit, and who can manage our dashboard. And so view is exactly that, just viewing and interacting with the dashboard, make selections and controls, add comments, etc. People who can edit the dashboard can change some of the settings. They can add and edit charts, controls, and content. They can rearrange the dashboard, and they can access some of the sections in the admin's setting or the dashboard settings section where we are now. And then anybody with the manage permission can manage all aspects of the dashboard, access all of these tabs, and delete or archive the dashboard. So again, you can select only specific people or anyone with access to Atlassian Analytics, type in a name or a group of users, and then choose the permission and then click add. So relatively straightforward there. We can configure subscriptions to our dashboard. They basically send scheduled emails with a link or an embedded image of the dashboard to keep your team updated. And it's nice to keep your stakeholders updated without requiring them to log into analytics. You would just click add subscription, give it a name, a frequency, so daily, weekly, monthly. What time do you want it to be sent? You can customize the values for the controls. What format do you want it to be sent? So PDF, CSV, or both. And then you would type the recipient here. And your recipients do need to have access to the dashboard. So if I type in here, for example, I'll only see these 3 individuals, which are the people who have access to my dashboard. And then lastly, the activity section is kind of an audit log for your specific dashboard. It stores data for 365 days or the previous calendar year. And you can download this here. And so you'll see I updated a chart, I created a new chart, and so on and so forth. And basically a comprehensive list of activity that has happened related to this dashboard. When we go to the export menu here, we can export this as a PDF or a CSV or a JSON. And again, the JSON is how you would import this to another analytics space. The PDF you could export and attach to an email, put in a PowerPoint, whatever you want to do with it. And then the CSV, I believe, is just the raw data that your dashboard is configured to look at. And then share, we can click this and it takes us directly to that access tab in the dashboard settings. So you can click on that to just go directly to this and add some additional users. And we talked about the custom templates a little bit ago. So from your dashboard, you can publish as a template, give it a title, give it a description, click publish, and then anybody can create their own new dashboard using that template. So if you've got your team level dashboard configured, for example, and you want other teams to have their own version of that dashboard, they can create a new one from that template. They can make changes to it and it won't affect the dashboard template. And that's true of the Atlassian templates as well. So if you make changes to a template dashboard or a template chart, that's not affecting the templates. It's just affecting that specific dashboard or chart. And then lastly, before we make some time for comment or questions, see if I can pull this up really quickly. You can actually embed your dashboards into Confluence. So here, basically all I've done is pasted a link to my dashboard and chosen to display it as the actual dashboard and not just a hyperlink. And we can see here that everything we saw in that previous dashboard is available now on this Confluence page, and you can even interact with it. So this is a really nice feature if you know you're using your dashboard for a stand-up or a meeting and you want to keep everything in one, just basically one page and present from a single place during your meeting. You can do this. The caveat is that your users are still going to need access to analytics to view this data and this specific dashboard, even if it's in Confluence. So it will respect your permissions over here in Confluence as related to analytics and as related to the specific dashboard that you've added to Confluence. So I know that's a lot in a short amount of time. Let's jump into the chat and the Q&A, and let's see if there's any questions in here. Can you put the dashboard into a Jira project? I don't think you can embed the dashboard like we just saw in Confluence, but you could certainly add like a link in your Jira project to your dashboard over there on like the left-hand side menu bar there, or they may have moved it to the top now, but there's a section for hyperlinks, and there are a lot of good ways to do that. Or you can add a link on a specific Jira issue to a related dashboard. But great question. I don't think you can embed them, but you can add links to them. And then I see another question about formulas. Let's look at these really quickly. And I'll show you how some of these work. I'll just let this load really quickly. So there's two ways to do your formulas. You can either create a new column using a formula that is doing something to an existing column, or you can add a formula directly to an existing column. So let's do that really quickly. So let's say, and this is a bad example, you probably wouldn't do this in the real world, but let's just say apply formula. And you've got a couple options here. There are these guided formulas that are mostly mathematical equations, although there is some like text formatting options and things like that here. Or you can do a custom formula, and you've got two options here. You can use AI to help you write a formula. I've done this in the past to like remove characters from a string that's coming out of one of the tables, for example, like a account ID or a project ID, something like that. or you can write your own SQL expression here. But let's go back really quickly and I'll just show you how like the divide one works, for example. So we would click divide and then count of issues is the only column that we have numbers in. So this is the only column that this mathematical formula is going to apply to. And then we'll just say divide by 2, just for an example purpose. Click save. And now all these numbers should be cut in half, and we see that here. So probably not super relevant to this chart, but the formulas are simple and they're really easy to kind of follow along the steps, and the formula column would work the same way. So I would choose divide again, then I choose my column and then choose another number. This time, let's say divide by 2 again. And then these numbers should be cut in half again, but they'll be put in their own column. And we can see that here. So now this started as 40, now it's 20, now it's 10, and so on and so forth. So they are pretty simple to use. My favorite use case for that is converting time and status or a work log, for example. You can pull work log data in analytics and converting it from seconds to days, hours, minutes, something like that. So great question. There's a ton of formulas in here. And I will say Atlassian's documentation on the formulas, on the group and aggregate functions, and some of these other functions in your charts is really comprehensive. I do recommend taking a look for that, and it will be able to give you more context than I can probably. Great question. So we're pretty much ready to wrap up here. Just a couple other things I want to mention. We talked about that Atlassian Analytics Quick Start course earlier. That's an interactive course. We will build charts from scratch. We'll build dashboards from scratch. We'll learn a lot more about those functions. We'll apply them. And our next one is going to be on September 24th, 9 a.m. to noon Central Standard Time. So it's a 3-hour course. There is a code in the chat here for 20% off. So if you want to attend that course, we'd love to have you. And there's a little bit of a discount in there as well. So do check that out if you want to. There's some more information on that course on our training website as well. Also, if you want to connect with me, my email is in the chat. My LinkedIn is in the chat. Would love to hear from you. If you have any questions related to this topic, so Atlassian Analytics or any of the other products in the ecosystem, happy to help, happy to answer any questions. Would love to connect with you there. So feel free to reach out to me, either email or LinkedIn. I will be available. And then just thanks again for everybody for attending today. Hope you enjoyed the course. Hope you learned something new about Atlassian Analytics and how it could be a useful tool for your team or your organization. Like I mentioned, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And thanks again for joining us today. Have a great day.